A record number of people in the United States quit their job before the holidays. Now, what does this mean? That means the people that are still choosing to keep a job or to choose not to quit, they're going to have to work extra hard and probably longer hours. And you're going to see, as a customer, you're going to see delays and services get interrupted in some cases. Even fire response in some cases is being delayed, and that's very dangerous. Anything from fire responses to your burger taking longer, your meals taking longer to get. Let's talk about this news today. A record 4.5 million people quit their jobs in November. We're still waiting for the December numbers, and I'm guessing it's going to be just as bad or maybe even worse. And let me think of a way that I can say this. Can I say this? Okay. People are having to jump through a lot of hoops in order to keep a job nowadays. Okay, I've got to be very careful about what I say on here. Otherwise, I may not be around to bring you any news. People are having to jump through a lot of hoops to keep a job, and it's not just that. The people that are still staying in the job, not quitting, they get the extra workload. And I saw this just the other night. I actually went to Taco Bell. I know just 2 weeks ago I talked about I went to Arby's. I'm not doing so good on the diet, but I'm only doing fast food like maybe once a week on weekends, fast food, because I don't feel like cooking. The wife doesn't feel like cooking. Anyways, went to Taco Bell. The line was outside of the driveway, down the road, a few cars in the road. So I was like, okay, it's going to be about 20 minutes. I went ahead and did it because, again, I didn't feel like cooking. Okay, so I'm not perfect. I eat fast food sometimes. The workers at this Taco Bell look so stressed out. They look so just tired and burned out and just like they wanted to be anywhere else but where they were at. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of this extra workload being transferred to the people that are still staying at the jobs. And I think it's causing a lot of extra stress. And we talked about just a few reports ago about how people are more stressed out financially now than any time ever before in history. And here's another recent article that backs that up. This is out of Business Wire. The average U.S. consumer worries about money 6 times a day. 6 times a day. So obviously, the average person thinks about money, worries about money 6 times a day. We know that these jobs are not paying enough to keep up with the rising cost of living. That has to be what is triggering all these people to worry so much about finances. So what does that tell us? Maybe people are not getting enough pay raises to keep up with the rising cost of living and everyone's rising expenses. I filled up my car the other day. The gas tank, the fuel indicator was only a little bit under half, and it cost me $62 to fill it up for just over a half a tank. And I don't have that big of a vehicle. This is a Honda Pilot, an SUV. And of course, that's California gas prices. That's higher than most of the country. But this is causing some pain for a lot of people. And add that on top of the other stresses now at work, because the people that are working are going to get a bigger share of the workload. They're going to be more stressed out. Add on top of that the cost to commute back and forth to work with the fuel prices right now. You have a mountain of things, that are pushing people out of the labor force. Also, this is reported out of the AP. Explosion spurs nationwide breakdown of services. And this article goes on to talk about a hospital in Kansas that's having to turn away patients because they have too many patients and not enough staff to handle all of the patients. So can you imagine going to the hospital in an emergency and you can't get in there because they're so short-staffed, they're going to try to find another hospital, hopefully nearby, to send you to. So I hope it's not a life-threatening injury that you have when you go into the hospital. So this is pretty dangerous, as we can see this continuous breakdown of the labor force. Also, we're seeing a lot of strikes. With the rising cost of living, people are demanding higher wages, and that's causing more people to go on strike. We talked about Kellogg Cereal up in Battle Creek. They went on strike. John Deere. Even here in San Diego, we had the sanitation workers go on strike. New York, we had trash piling up on the streets. We reported on all that here. And here's just a couple reports here. No end in sight in strike against trash hauler Republic Services here. That's here in San Diego. San Diego sanitation workers strike for more than a week. Piles of dumpster trash yet to be picked up. Let's see if we can get you a more recent update here. Trash trouble workers return to picket lines as latest Republic Services offer rejected. So they're going back and forth. They're trying to negotiate with the striking workers. Yes, trash is piling up here. I've seen it driving down some parts of San Diego here. And this is another thing to pile on top of everything else. And guess what? To all of you that have been on this channel, you expected this, and you know that things are going to continue to get worse because there's not much being done to fix this. When you have out of control cost of living, prices going up everywhere you look, you're going to have the continuous demand for higher wages to keep up with this. Guess what? Businesses want to make as much money as possible, so they're going to try to not give the raises like they really should be giving if they were trying to keep up with the rising cost of living. So that's going to create more strife amongst the workforce, more strife and strikes, and it's going to cause more problems. It's going to cause more people to check out of the workforce because they feel, you know, it's not worth it with everything costing so much and they're not making enough. Then you have all the other issues we talked about at the beginning with all the hoops that people have to jump through. And it's going to cascade. It's going to mount on top of one another. It's going to stack on top of each other. Basically a storm of events. Finally, you have companies that are going to choose to offshore more jobs because labor is cheaper in other countries. And here, everybody's demanding higher wages. So what's this going to mean? It's going to mean more jobs gone, more people in the unemployment line, more push for more assistance being handed out to people. And I've said this before, I think we're going to see a re-emergence of the eviction moratorium. We're going to start seeing a spike in bankruptcies. I think that's going to be towards the second part of this year, 2022. But then again, who knows? They could come out with so many rescue programs where people don't have to file bankruptcies. They could cancel mortgages. They could cancel rent. They could cancel utilities. They could send out stimulus checks. They could do all kinds of stuff to intervene in the natural forces that usually would cause these types of things. But overall, we're going to see some very interesting times. It could be some very difficult times. Depending on your position right now, it could be some very scary times for a lot of people. It already is a scary time for a lot of people. And I was actually at work the other day. I talked to someone who lost both of her parents within about 2 weeks with this health crisis going on. So it's a tough time for a lot of people. And the scary part to me is that nothing's being done to reverse this. They could tell you the numbers look good, you know, the GDP, they could point to the unemployment number, but look at the average person. The average person is getting further in debt. Let's talk about these credit card debt levels from the holidays. This is out of WBIR. Record spending. 1 in 3 Americans racked up credit card debt this holiday season. Records show the average credit card debt per person increased by $1,200 just this holiday season. And, you know, I've said this, I'm going to continue to say this this year. It's going to be harder and harder to stay out of debt. And it's going to be harder to stay at your job because you're probably going to get a bigger workload handed over to you if you're someone that's still working. And also back to that other article that talked about the breakdown in services, I read in there that there's some EMT workers that are working 80 hours per week. How long until they get so stressed out that they're going to have health issues? We know that stress is a big health issue, and that's been really rising for a lot of people on top of all the other health crisis issues that we see stacking up. Doesn't look good. But on the other hand, if you have seen the writing on the wall for a long time, like a lot of us here, myself and a lot of you here on this channel, you've been preparing for this, and maybe you're in a very good position right now because you knew what was coming, and you've been very careful, you've been cautious, and you've been preparing. So I think a lot of us on this channel, myself included, will be okay. But we do have to be careful because we see other dangers emerging when you see this financial breakdown like we're seeing amongst the population. It's going to get more dangerous. So continue to use caution. That's why I try to say be safe, because crime is going to continue to rise. And a lot of things to look out for. Be well, stay safe. Bye for now. Peace.